cost of transactions is very high. I mean, the fact that credit card from banks is coming to stealing 1-2% off.
So Ben, we have been talking about going cashless for ages now. Other countries have done it. Bank Negara say we are moving towards this cashless society. And so where are we now really? Where are we now?
I think right now, some estimates put us at about 20% of transactions are not in cash, which means 80% of our transactions are still in cash. So we are heavily reliant on cash. So I don't think we're very close to that target yet, but there's been a lot of changes over the past couple of years. The payment card reform framework that Bank Negara has rolled out, with the chip and PIN, with the consolidation of MyClear and Maps, they've started to move in a direction where we can start to do more payments cashless.
Online. So it's very difficult to change something that you're so used to doing it, like carrying cash around, paying it, buying fruits, buying vegetables and all that. So why should we give out cash?
I think first you got to look at why we don't use cashless. First things first is most shops just don't have the payment terminal for you to do cashless transactions. So even if you have a debit card, and all of us have a debit card, which we can use for cashless, we don't use it because the shops don't accept it. And the shops don't accept it because for now they feel that it's still very expensive to do so. And there's no real drive to put more terminals out there for us to use.
So cash in circulation still grew quite a bit, double digit last year. So how are we going to change this?
One thing that Bank Negara is doing is making sure that they bring down the cost of transactions. So right now, if you use your debit card, it's only going to cost the merchant 0.15% or a maximum of 50 cents. So if you spend 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 ringgit, if you swipe your debit card, it's only going to cost the merchant 50 cents. So that makes it a lot cheaper than credit cards. So the foundation is there. Now it's just a matter of changing people's behavior. And people don't like to use cards for a whole variety of reasons. They feel it's not safe. The terminals are not there. They can't even do it,
I think the key thing is to convince people, to change people's mindset, to use cashless instead of bringing cash around. The most interesting numbers in your story is that we actually saw more credit cards transaction in the market than debit cards. Although we have more debit cards in the market right now usage. So why is the discrepancy? Why is the difference?
I think you got to realize that for the past 3 decades that we've been in this ecosystem created by the Visas and MasterCards and American Express, that they've been heavily incentivizing the banks to issue credit cards because that's where the money's at. And the banks in turn incentivize the customers to use credit cards with loyalty programs, with reward schemes. You go to a place, you get free coffee, but nothing is free. And who ultimately pays for this are the merchants. So the credit card companies, the banks pass these costs down to the merchants, and ultimately the merchants pass these costs on to the consumers. So we are paying for these things.
Yeah. But the biggest change or the biggest merger we have seen so far is MyClears, Bank Negara's MyClears. They are merging with Maps, MEPS, so to form something called Paynet.
Yep.
So Paynet is establishing something called RPP, right?
Yeah.
Retail Payments Platform. What does it do?
So basically right now we're running on really legacy technology. There's a lot of limitations to what we can do with the existing payment systems. So what RPP is going to do is going to allow for more enriched messaging. For example, when you do a transaction, it could include invoices, maybe even pictures. Like if someone goes to your house to fix something, and you want to pay him, he can send you an invoice, and you can straight away accept the payment. Clear the payment, and in there you can see what he's charged you for, maybe even pictures. So this RPP opens up a more flexible platform to do this. Something that perhaps fintechs would have built this infrastructure if Bank Negara and the banks don't build it.
So Ben, on one hand we have credit cards and debit cards, right? On the other hand we have people like Alipay, Tencent coming in. So will it actually cannibalize each other? How does that work?
I don't think they compete head to head in most spaces. Mobile payments target a very different segment. So if you think about where the credit cards and debit cards are now, those payment terminals, they're expensive. So they only go to the top tier merchants, the second tier merchants. Whereas mobile payments, if you're just you follow what Alipay and Tencent have done, is that you just download an app on a smart device and you can start to accept payments. It's really cheap and it's really quick to roll out. So they don't have to fight at the top space for the top tier merchants. They can target everyone else. The other 80% of transactions that do not rely on credit cards and debit cards.
For more on the stories, pick up a copy of The Edge Weekly at all good newsstands.